All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please silence your cell phones at this time or any electronic devices that make noise that could interrupt the meeting. I will ask Valerie, please call the roll.
Commissioner Penny,
Here.
Commissioner Curry,
Here.
Commissioner Danio,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson, Mayor Villa.
Here. And at this time, I'll ask you all to please stand for the invocation led by City Commissioner John Danio. Continue standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, guys, I'm never surprised how God seems to work out small details, and on the days when I have the invocation, He's good for that. And I'm a little disturbed at the situation when I left Joe's office about the current status of these COVID cases. It kind of bothered me. So I just happened to look up the verse of the day, and it was Galatians 5:6, and it talks about circumcised, uncircumcised, and everything in the old days, and it really doesn't matter whether we're vaccinated, unvaccinated. It talks about the only thing that has value is our faith. And I think right now we need to pull together as a country and just ask God to be with everybody and kind of get back on track, because we're losing it. We had a chance to get things going, we just seem to be losing it. So I'm hoping that you guys will join me in a prayer to kind of ask God for that, and at the same time bless our meeting. Heavenly Father, I just lift up our whole country to you, God. You are ultimately in charge of everything that goes on, and we just seem to be slipping away and going in the wrong direction, and I just ask you to kind of get things back on track for us. God, I lift up the McEwen family, Pastor Josh and his family. If they're going through it again, it's just, it's a shame. But God, I ask you to bless this meeting in spite of all that, and be with us tonight as we go through our agenda, make decisions. We ask you to help guide us and continue to be with us here in the city of Holly Hill. And I ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you for that, Commissioner Danio. So now we will move to the first thing on our agenda tonight, which is setting the maximum millage rate for fiscal year 21-2022. Mr. Forte? Hey, right when you sit down.
I don't have my computer.
That's okay. Well,
I kind of need it. No? No.
did you have it earlier?
No, I came to the work session.
Oh.
I didn't have it. Okay, so in conjunction with the notice of the proposed property tax, the trim notice is pursuant to Section 200.069 of the Florida statute. The City Commission must authorize advertisement of the maximum millage rate for the upcoming budget year. The current operating millage rate is 6.25 mils per thousand of assessed taxable value. The current taxable value is $737,719,097. With the proposed rate, preliminary ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2022 would be $4,380,207 at 95% of the collection. That's what we talked about earlier. The current year rollback millage rate is 6.0034 mils per thousand assessed value. With the current year rollback rate, the preliminary ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2022 would be $4,207,882 at 95%. The maximum millage is 4.11% above the rollback millage rate. So the city must establish the public hearing dates within 35 days of the final tax certification received from the property appraiser for the fiscal year that ends September 30th, 2022. So this evening, the commission needs to make a decision on setting that maximum millage rate and then establishing the public hearing dates.
Thank you very much. All right. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the maximum millage rate tonight? Seeing none, I will close public participation, and I will entertain a motion to set the maximum millage rate.
Make a motion to set the maximum millage rate at 6.25.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion needed? I'll just say that this particular budget year is very interesting with the minimum wage. We're no longer competing with different governments when it comes to wages. We will now increasingly be competing with the private sector. And with the unfunded voter mandate about the minimum wage increase has really going to put a lot of businesses and tough decisions, as well as all of the local governments. And I, for one, have listened to many other cities' budget debates, and everybody is kind of feeling the same stretch here. So, but I do want to commend the staff for coming back with all of these mandates that are before us of how we have to fund things over the next couple years, and still coming back with a budget that is not increasing our tax rate at all. And that's what we're setting here today, which is our maximum millage rate that we can do. So I just want to commend that, and I just wanted to put that on record before we took a vote. So with that, is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving to our presentations. Number one, fiscal year 2020 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Presentation presented by James Halloran, James Moore and Company, CPAs.
Mayor, before we go on, we still have to set the public hearing dates.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry.
Public hearing
I'll
dates.
call you back up.
We would recommend the first public hearing date would be on Monday, September 13th, and the second public hearing date would be on Tuesday, September 26th? 28th. I went the wrong way.
Was that not in the,
28th?
was that not in the recommended motion?
Well, you made a motion for the setting the
Just the
maximum
millage?
millage, but nobody included the dates.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that catch, Stella. All right, so now we need a motion to set the dates.
So moved.
Second.
All right, as stated by Mr. Forte, we'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the dates of the millage hearings? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move to our presentation. Just trying to fake you out.
All right.
The floor is yours, sir.
I see she is bringing it up there. Well, thank you, everyone, for our first audit with you guys here. James Halloran at James Moore. Also have Chris Noyes. He's the audit manager on the engagement. And then Spencer Machuga, he's actually an intern with us from Stetson. So this summer, so I figured it'd be good for him to come out and see what the end product looks like. He's in the middle of making sausage now, so I figured this was a good, this is the pretty side of the audit.
You're not done yet.
Yeah, no, I still gotta get through this. Well, this is the audit for the year ended September 30th, 2020. And first, of course, I'd like to thank Stella, and Amy came in right at the end to help out as well as getting all the information together for us. And the rest of your staff was very helpful all around, all the different departments. We talked to different departments as, projects or whatever may come up, and everyone was very helpful with us in completing the audit. So, you can go one slide for me. And so audit reports. So a couple different audit reports you'll see in this annual comprehensive financial report. They switched the name on us a little bit. And so there's 4 reports that are James Moore and Company's. The rest of this is your financial statements, the City of Holly Hills financial statements for this year. Our responsibility is to audit those financial statements. You're audited both in accordance with U.S. auditing standards, government auditing standards, in addition to rules set by the Florida Auditor General. You are not subject to federal or state single audit this year. To be that, you'd have to have greater than $750,000 of federal awards or state awards. You may be here in the next year or two, be subject to that again. So the first one is the independent auditor's report on the financial statements. We have an unmodified opinion, but with an emphasis in matter related to some prior period adjustments that were noted. We're going to go through those later. Actually, the last slide of the presentation, we'll go through the detail of those. The report on internal control and compliance is required by government auditing standards. This report, we look at internal control over financial reporting as well as compliance and other matters. And with that, we had one material weakness, which related to the prior period adjustments, and we had one significant deficiency related to user access in your accounting software program. So the level of comments that we would provide as auditors, material weakness would be the most severe, then a significant deficiency, then recommendations and suggestions, and those are in the Florida Auditor General letter. So that next letter, we'll see the Florida Auditor General letter required by Chapter 10.55. We had two recommendations there, one dealing with timeliness of bank reconciliations, establishing a policy and ensuring that those bank reconciliations are completed within 30 days after the year end, after the month end. And then also data backups, in working with your data backups, making sure they're tested and that documentation of testing those backups to restore them is performed and documented. We also required by the Auditor General to look at your investment policies and compare those to the Florida investment statutes, and we would indicate if there were any variances between those, and there were none. Also, on page 136 of the annual comprehensive annual financial report is the management's response to those comments. So now we'll get into some numbers. So a lot of numbers you're going to see up there. This is big picture overall for the city, both from a governmental side, which is your general fund, your CRA, your impact trust funds, and then what we consider business type is your water, sewer, solid waste, stormwater are all considered a business type activity. And the largest changes you'll see there is on your governmental side, your investment in capital assets decreased significantly from 18 to 19. That's that prior period adjustment, and we'll go through that in a couple of slides. Your unrestricted for this year did go up. In your governmental, you guys did receive CARES Act funds, and CARES Act funds late in the game were allowed to be used for public safety salaries, regardless if direct correlation to COVID or not. So that was about a little bit more than $400,000. You also did what every government you would expect someone to do is when COVID first hit, you said, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. We still don't know what's going to happen. And you said, we're going to curtail expenses where we can. So you had projects that didn't move fastest forward, you had positions held open, you saved money where you could because you don't know what's going to happen. Your business type activities we'll go through a little bit later, the unrestricted side, but you'll see there's a steady increase in what your investment back into your infrastructure is for your water, sewer, and your stormwater. Can you go one slide for me? General fund, that's your main operating fund. That's the fund you have the most discretion over as elected officials. And you'll see there, at the end of the year, about $6.8 million in total in your general fund. 5.7 of that is unassigned. And that's really what's available to be spent or budgeted out in the coming years. That's a big increase from the 2.1 when you look at it. But as I mentioned before, you got $430,000 in CARES Act. You also finally got some FEMA money. So you got about $1.3 million FEMA that you've been waiting on for a number of years. So that helped. In addition to that, all the expense savings you guys had during the year. You'll see that restricted decreased too substantially. Previously, your permit fund was shown as a restricted amount, but it's subsidized by general fund unrestricted dollars. So really those permit monies are not restricted, so that's the big change there. So if we look at general fund, about $6.6 million between your assigned and unassigned fund balances. And then we say, how does that compare to your expenditures for the year? So for this year, it comes out to about 73%. That's roughly 9 months you're sitting at. If you're thinking about for how many months you have set aside in emergency savings, that's a little bit higher, but you got to remember your expenses were down a little bit. You didn't spend as much as you budgeted. And this is a little bit different calculation. Your fund balance policy of the city is set at between 20 and 25. Using that calculation would be about 60%. GFOA is Government Finance Officers Association, and they recommend approximately 2 months, which is 16.77, and that's as a minimum. So that's really the floor of where you'd ever want to go from a fund balance policy. And that's just to give you cash flow, for unexpected events, as well as I don't speak of the little storms that get named. I don't speak of that stuff because it's bad luck. But in case we do, then you need that little cash flow. The next chart shows how do you compare millage-wise. Very timely, Joe, thanks, right after the budget hearing. So you can see kind of where you guys are falling out. You're kind of in that middle of the pack of the East Coast cities in Volusia County. These are just the east side. So you're right there in line with Daytona Beach and Ponce Inlet. It's kind of where you guys have been for the last couple of years. So a little bit of your other governmental funds. I mentioned the CRA earlier. This was the first year state statutes required you to have a separately issued financial statement on your CRA. It's always been included as part of your annual comprehensive financial report and has been an opinion provided there. The state added an additional requirement to have those separately audited and a separate financial statement issued. Your balance at the end of the year, your CRA is about $5.1 million. Slight decrease from the previous year. You always have some projects going on there. You had some Pictona monies spent this year on that project. But the important thing there is the first year, and you'll see it every year now, a separate audit for your CRA. Your non-major funds, your impact fee trust funds, and your law enforcement trust fund had no expenditures for the year, just had a little minimal amount of monies collected in each fund that are restricted, and those can only be spent for those specified purposes. Capital project funds, you guys move each year as you do your budget. You set an amount. I heard you at the end there as I came in talking about how much you're going to have for capital projects. You'll move money into that capital project fund in order to fulfill those capital projects you have set up. So this year you spent a little bit in Sunrise Park. That's probably the biggest chunk of that, about $600,000. So next, your proprietary funds. These are your business type funds. So water, sewer, stormwater, solid waste, internal service fund. And what you'll see there, this is just the unrestricted portion. So what's left over in each one of those funds that's not restricted for impact fees or not invested back in your infrastructure. And that unrestricted amount, about $5.9 million, is what's in that water and sewer. And that includes the $3 charge that goes out on the monthly water bills as well for capital replenishment. So it's about $2.3 million you've collected over time in there that's sitting there for some of those projects. And it's about $600,000 a year that comes in from those funds. Stormwater, like most cities, if you had more money, you could actually do more stormwater projects. There's only a couple cities I know that don't have that issue, and they're few and far between. Solid waste, as Joe mentioned, at the end of the budget hearing, about $4.7 million. That's been relatively consistent over the years. You do contract out for your garbage services, so you don't have a capital need there. So that's why he's thinking it may be time to say, hey, maybe we could utilize those monies in some other areas in the next couple years. Internal service funds was mentioned as well, just started back in 2019, and you guys may be looking at dissolving those in this next year and moving those activities back over to general fund where they were before. Everyone always asks about pensions. Joe mentioned his, going to go in a drop for FRS, And so you guys have three different pension plans. You have Florida Retirement System, FRS, which is your general employees, water and sewer, those employees. Your police and fire have separate single employer defined benefit pension plans. And each one of those, you have to record what the net pension liability is. So this is calculated by an actuary where they project out the future benefit payments for each one of the employees and then compare that to how much is sitting in the bank, basically, in the investment accounts for those purposes. And from the state level, you record a percentage of your share of the whole state retirement system. So as you can see over time, $6.3 million back in 2018, now 6.6. Of course, those have changed. Some of them have done a little better, some not. And those will fluctuate each year. A big driver of that is how the market's doing at the time. At that time, the police and fire are based off of September year end. The state retirement system is based off of June. So at June 30th, 2020, much different picture than it is today. I'll just point that out. All your plans are funded well. The percent funding, the difference I always tell people in the state of Florida, you have to fund what's actuarially required as opposed to other states. So we have an advantage in Florida is you're not going to have those pensions that are well underfunded. Actuarially, it'll still take time to pay them, but they are actuarially sound. And I just listed the contribution rates for those different plans just so you can have it there to think about of what you pay between police, fire, and general employees. So some other items, long-term debt for this year, you didn't take on any new debt. So that's always a good thing, pay down what you had. Your only debt on your governmental side, you have no general bonded governmental debt, all that's sitting in your CRA. And the tax increment revenue for the CRA is paying down that debt. Some accounting pronouncements that will be coming out that you'll probably hear, just as accounting people talk about, but, leases, fiduciary activities we implemented this year, as well as subscription-based IT arrangements is another thing that we'll be implementing the next couple years. Of course, we can't do anything without not talking about COVID-19, so there is a separate note disclosure describing the events of COVID-19 and the uncertainty surrounding that. So the last slide, I put it as the last slide so I can just delete it next year, is prior period adjustments. So these are some items we found. Stella came to us with a couple of the items as well. The first one there, she came to us and said, does it make sense we have the electrical lines that were buried in the CRA area that are FP&Ls as an asset of the city? And I'm like, well, you don't own your electric utility. So no. So that's the big chunk of that, about $6.8 million. That $8 million was infrastructure, that CRA paid for, but really belongs to other parties. We also looked at the FEMA money and said, okay, what's going on with the FEMA? They asked me to separately look at that and say what we realized was about $567,000 that in prior years had been recognized in revenue that should not have been. Compensated absences, we looked at that as well, and that was including pension costs, but is not supposed to include pension costs. They're already included in your net pension liability calculations. State revenue sharing, there was 2 months accrued on that, 2 extra months that were recorded in the activity that should not have been. And then we looked at the Police Explorers Fund. It was previously presented always as a special revenue fund, but it's not your money. It's not money that's charged by the city out to citizens or for a purpose. It's a club that you're just holding the books of that club, and basically holding the cash account, and they write the checks. They have the responsibility for it. So we moved it over to more fiduciary type activity, which is more appropriate. I didn't go 30 minutes, Joe, so you're going to have to.
did all right.
So you're going to have to make up for me.
You did all right.
Okay. But I'll take any questions. I know I met with you each individually. I do appreciate you doing that because I know a lot of cities, sometimes I only get 1 or 2 folks to do it. Sometimes I get them all. So if you guys like that, we continue to do it each year. It's totally up to you guys.
Yeah, I just appreciate you taking the time to meet with all of us individually, and I know that, and thank you to the staff for doing that as well. I know you had to go through the same presentation at least 5 times, maybe 6.
Now 6. Yes.
This is 6. So thank you very much. Is there any questions for? No. All right. Thank you very much. We
All right.
appreciate it.
We appreciate the work.
Yep. Thank
Thanks.
you both for attending as well back there. Good luck with finishing up school, and hopefully you jump into all this soon. All right. Now we'll move on from our presentations and we'll go to public comments. This is the audience's opportunity to address the commission about anything not on our regular agenda tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Mr. Legary.
I like that shirt.
You like that? I got it for nothing.
Oh, you got it for something.
Jim Legary, 342 Burley. The first thing I want to mention is, I think we spoke before, and I know Joe and I spoke about the grass clippings. I'm not sure that I mentioned it to y'all, but the last time I went out on the boat, the day that I saw you out there was a wave of grass clippings, probably 150, 200 foot, which I'm convinced probably came out of our situation. That's got to be the worst possible thing in the world for the river. And I'm thinking maybe we could at least get our people. I saw again the other day out on Ridgewood in front here. There were grass clippings in the street. Maybe we could get people to get a bag and hold that stuff or something. I want to again revisit the money from the federal government, and I know you suggested, Mr. Mayor, that we should spend it on things that the public doesn't see, and I would very much like to see some money spent on what the public can see. Perhaps some benches for the buses, perhaps some shelters of some kind. Perhaps we could do more murals everywhere. Instead of these ugly boxes and ugly walls, maybe we could dress that up. Perhaps we could do something. When you come off of Nova Road, there can't be an uglier place in this, well, there is an uglier place in the city when you get further down to the junkyard. But something should happen there. When you come off the bridge, the retention ponds could stand a fountain or something rather than that green scuzz that you see. There's all kinds of, I think, small money things that would make a remarkable difference. maybe gardens in the park, some art classes for kids, some gatherings so the commissioners could have get-togethers outside of this with a coffee klatch or something with some of their constituents. I would like to see something where the public gets a larger voice. I don't think every time I look, like a Wikipedia or whatever it is, that says Holly Hill on it, the first thing that stands out is we have 27% of the population lives in poverty. I have yet to hear anything address that. I know that there must be something we could do with that money, with I don't know, hire somebody to, like I say, make some arrangements so that we get more input from the citizenry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Legary. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comments, and we will move to the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the July 13, 2021 Budget Workshop and the July 13, 2021 Regular City Commission Meeting and CRA Meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Johnson and a second from Commissioner Danio. Any discussion needed? Would anybody in the public like to talk about the minutes? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now moving to our consent agenda, items 1 through 5. Would a commissioner like to remove any item on the consent agenda tonight? The action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless the city commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any item on the consent agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Commissioner Curry and a second from Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now moving to our regular agenda, Resolution 2021-R-47. Mr. Forte.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Volusia County, Florida, amending the adopted budget for the City of Holly Hill for the fiscal year 2021 and providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is presented for first and only reading.
Thank you very much. Are you going to call Stella up?
No, this is the
Only for
budget
questions.
amendment. It's got 3 items basically contained within it. One is for the recognizing the Florida Department of Transportation grant that we received, the aggressive driving grant of $40,000. The other is a insurance reimbursement amount of $9,332, and the other is recognizing a reduction in the FEMA grant that we had anticipated of $620,543, and those are the local mitigation strategy grants for the stormwater projects up on Espanola and State, Tuscaloosa. So we had a couple of small drainage projects that fell out of the mitigation strategy funding.
Perfect. Are there any questions for staff? At this time, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Danio for approval of Resolution 2021-R-47 and a second by Commissioner Curry. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now moving to Resolution 2021-R-48. Mr. Forte.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, approving and awarding S.E. Klein Construction, Inc., the contract for the Sunrise Park Northern Bulkhead Replacement, authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement and providing for severability and providing for an effective date. This resolution is presented for first and only reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forte. Would you go ahead and explain this
Yeah,
one
so
for the public?
this is the northern bulkhead in North Sunrise Park that was damaged in 2016 following Hurricane Matthew. The bulkhead, this is the one that we've been battling with FEMA and the state for funding since 2016. So we put it out for bid. We did get 6 bids, and the lowest, most responsible bidder was S.E. Klein with an amount of $620,649.07.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff? The only thing is, we talked about the south bulkhead, and that is not going to be covered by FEMA. Is that correct?
That is not covered by FEMA because FEMA determined that they couldn't conclude that the storms caused the damage. There's some hairline cracking in there, and there's some seepage of the land on the in the park that's going out. Sometimes you'll see seepage through a seawall that could often be sealed. In this case, a lot of it's coming down and under the seawall. But they've determined that it doesn't meet the criteria that they would cover it. So that's another project that we would talk about for a capital expenditure. Is it in imminent danger? No, but at some point, that wall is going to become a problem because it is losing a lot of sand up on the land side.
Do you know if the longer we wait to fix it, will the cost go up? Not just talking about inflation, but I mean, Steve's shaking his head yes. I don't mean just common inflation, everything costs more later, but are we going to see that wall deteriorate more, and is it going to be more and more expensive?
Whether you're going to have to replace entire, whatever the distance is, you're going to have to replace. If time goes on, it's not going to get any worse. So what we have to replace has to be replaced. It's not going to get any bigger. I don't believe it's going to extend any further west towards the shore.
Okay. I know that's not what we're voting on tonight, but I know that's go
So
ahead.
why is Steve shaking his head?
Well, he stopped shaking his head. I think he was talking about inflation. There you go.
That's the only,
And I think what you were referred to, is it going to get any worse to cost
Right.
us more? And it is what it is. So if I've got to replace a 100-foot section today, I got to replace a 100-foot section tomorrow.
Okay, all right. And we'll have that discussion and
More than 100
that
feet.
workshop of everything that needs to be funded in the future to come up with a plan to do that. But at least we finally have FEMA agreeing about this one, thank goodness. So with that, are there any further questions for staff? All right, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval of Resolution 2021-R-48.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Johnson and a second from Vice Mayor Penny. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And before I go into the next one, I actually do want to thank you, Steve, for that. I know how much effort you put into FEMA and how much back and forth you really did. And so I'm sure the commission would like to thank you very much for putting up with them for so long. So thank you for making that come through. At this time, before we go into the next public hearing, I understand we have a commissioner that may have a conflict. So, Joe, what's the proper...
Normally, we take them out back and we hit them with sticks. This time, we're going to
Does he need
allow
to
him-
disclose it into the record and then step out of the room?
I already filled out the form and gave it to Val, the
Yep.
8B form,
Okay,
which is item 8, and his 8B form, just kind of a coincidence. But it is Florida Statute 112.3143, that I don't have any choice. I have to abstain from the
yes, sir.
vote. So I will excuse myself. If it's okay with you, I'll leave the room until the vote is done and come back.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
we'll wake you up when it's over.
I'll take a break.
We'll let you know when it's done.
We're gonna escort him.
All right, so we'll wait as he exits the room. And now we will go into our public hearing of ordinance 2021-0-3041. Mr. Forte?
An ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, amending the land development regulations by rezoning the parcel described in Exhibit A from CC1 Commercial Corridor District to BPUD Business Plan Unit Development, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is the first reading of this ordinance. There will be a second reading in a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Forte. Mr. Walker, the floor is yours.
Mayor, Commissioners. The parcel addressed as 1137 Nova Road, South Nova Road, it's zoned CC1, and it has a future land use that is general commercial. The applicant is requesting to rezone that property to a business plan unit development. What they'd like to do is develop a recreational vehicle and boat storage facility, as well as a facility that will handle sports and things of that nature. The BPUD is being requested in order to allow new uses and provide flexibility with regard to parking standards that could not be achieved under a straight zoning district. So that's why we're not going from CC1 to some other straight zoning district, such as a B4 or B5. The business plan,
map.
the business plan unit development gives them flexibility in terms of uses that may not be easy to fit in a straight zone category, or with regard to things such as not being able to meet the standard parking regulations that would be required with a straight zoning requirement, or straight zoning district. So that's why they're going for a business plan unit development. There is a future land use and zoning analysis in your staff report. It shows what the future land use is with regard to the surrounding properties and what the zonings are with regard to the surrounding properties as well. There is a site analysis in your staff report. So one of the things that we look at when we're talking about a rezone, especially with a BPUD, is what is the appropriateness of the requested zoning? Is what they're requesting, since they may be requesting things that are not allowed in most of the other zoning districts, or maybe not in any of them, it may be a unique use, is what they're looking for appropriate for the area. So with regard to the uses that they're requesting, they're looking to do mini warehouses, recreational vehicle and boat storage, indoor private recreational areas, outdoor private recreational areas and facilities, and retail sales and services. When we look at the current zoning district, only the mini warehouses and the retail sales and services are specifically stated as being allowed in the CC1 zoning district. So the other things that they're looking at, recreational vehicle, indoor recreational, and outdoor recreational areas, these are things that are unique to that site and within this business plan unit development. Now, there is an indoor sports and gymnastics facility next to the property under review, and there's also an industrial zoning district across the street. It's actually in the county, but it is an industrial zoning district. So when we look at what's next to them, we look at what's across the street for them, what the county is allowing with regard to the industrial zoning district, which are things like industrial operations engaged in fabricating, repair, storage, manufactured goods. Asking to put in a recreational vehicle and boat storage and recreational facilities is not out of character with the area. So staff feels that this request is consistent with the land development regulations of Holly Hill and appropriate for the area. With regard to consistency in the comprehensive plan, the general commercial requirements are pretty basic. They say that the floor area ratio shall not exceed 1.95%. The applicant is requesting at this point 0.15%. So they're certainly not exceeding that. Also per flu policy 1.1.5, the city is compelled to review the rezone request for consistency with the uses, density, and compatibility of the comprehensive plan. So we look at what they're looking to do, look at other elements within the comprehensive plan, and say, does what they're looking to do violate any of those elements, or is it consistent with the overall tone and theme of the comprehensive plan? And it is. So based on that, staff recommends that the City Commission adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from CC1, Commercial Corridor, to BPUD, Business Plan Unit Development, and the associated development agreement and preliminary plan for approximately 2.38 acres located on the east side of Nova Road South, approximately 375 feet south of Gulf Avenue and more specifically known as 1137 South Nova Road.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Mr. Walker, are there any questions for Mr. Walker?
So there's no need for a future land use change, just
No,
the
sir.
zoning.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. At this time, too, if there are any ex parte communications that took place, we should disclose them now. I will go first. Ex parte communication, probably not years ago, months and months ago, Deanna, who I believe you'll be the owner of the business, spoke to me about this project and about the idea, and that's about as far as the conversation went. And additionally, too, the owner of Flight Gymnastics spoke to me about this recently and thought that it was great for that area, so wanted to disclose that as well. So I don't know if there's any other ex parte communications that needed to be disclosed. Okay.
I think I might have had a casual conversation with Deanna, possibly Roy, years ago.
Okay.
I fed her. Does that count?
No, it doesn't count. All right. And so with that, now, if the applicant would like to address the city commission, you are more than welcome to do so. And just state your name and who you are for the project.
Harry Newkirk, Newkirk Engineering, address 1230 North US Highway 1, Ormond Beach. I grew up in, I like to disclose, I grew up in in Holly Hill. I went to two schools that now have closed for a new business, which is good to see that redevelopment, and also the Hope Project, which I was involved with Hope Project, so. And my mom still lives in Holly Hill. But I'm very excited about this project here. This is, to me, it's a redevelopment project, which it is, and it's what I enjoy doing these days. We do a lot of projects at Newkirk Engineering where we tear down a lot of trees, impact wetlands, disturb environmental areas with wildlife and stuff, and we do it for residential subdivisions and commercial developments. But this is absolutely what I enjoy doing. We take a piece of property that's been in use for several years, and you can see Deanna's hard work as the tenants have left and the junk. I mean, this was basically a salvage yard, really. There's boats, RVs, everything there. That's all gone. So the site looks as good as it's ever looked in 30 years right now, I'd say. But so we've started working on just making it look good as the tenant has left and it's vacant now. But this project here is, as Brian said so well, and the staff, Joe Forte, very, very good to work with in the city, as we've had a couple of meetings to go over this project. As they had comments, we made revision. This isn't the first plan we sent in. We've made a few revisions as we had these meetings. And what we're doing is a development that is recreational facility. It's in line with what's next door, as I did Flight Gymnastics, and it's doing very well for the kids of the city and the surrounding areas. If you haven't been there, check it out on Friday or Saturday. It's absolutely amazing. And to do some boat and RV storage around the site. Boat and RV storage, as you may know, is use. This will be covered. It'll be screened. Has no traffic. So it's when you do a use like this, you don't worry too much about the offsite Nova Road and what's going to be coming on with traffic, as some businesses, such as gas stations and whatnot, do that. The recreational facility is going to be a combination of an indoor facility that is utilizing the existing building. It's roughly around 7,000 square feet. The new building is the open-air covered facility, so you will see it from the road. It will connect to the existing building, so you'll see it from three sides visible for Nova Road. The existing site doesn't have city water. We're going to provide a water meter, tie in, and bring it in. It's on well and septic. The septic will remain, as there's no force main available up on Nova, so it doesn't meet access to get to where the force main is down the road. The access will remain right in, right out on Nova. The development right now has no landscaping. So one of the big things on this site is it's going to come in the code with landscaping, and with this PUD, we have to go above, so we have 1.5 times more landscaping on the front buffer, and that's really what you see. When you drive down the road, you pass Flight Gymnastics, it's all got the nice landscaping, nice improved building. This site will do the same thing, and you go to O'Reilly's. So you'll have a big section in the city all up to code in landscaping. And to me, that's really a win as this area redevelops, and in reality, it all will redevelop. It's just a matter of time for the other side of the road and everything redevelops, because there's only so much land in Holly Hill, and it's all going to get redeveloped at some time. So this project's doing that, and I think it's next door Flight Gymnastics, you're looking at the best gymnasium in Volusia County. This project here, this batting facility, sports facility, there's none like it. There are some, but they're very small. This will absolutely be the best one in Volusia County. So you'll have numerous people come from Ormond, Port Orange to use this facility. Maybe some of the high school teams, college teams will use it. So it's going to be an asset to the community and anyone that uses it. Boat and RVs needed as subdivisions are developing out LPGA, as we know what's going on out in Daytona. You can't park vehicles there. If there's people in Holly Hill who want to park here, I believe there's somebody close that told Deanna they would take a space. But it's a much needed use as the area develops to keep these vehicles stored in a secure location. This will be secure. It'll have video cameras, and it's only got one access point. So problems that they have for security, this one won't have this, as you can only come in through the front. The building will be done up on the front with signage and some accents to make that beautiful in the front. It's been painted. The owner's painted it, put a new roof on it, put stairs on the side for access for fire, and they'll have some nice signage in the front. But I think really the landscaping will clean it up. The site right now really doesn't have a stormwater system. It'll be brought up to code with St. John's, the city, for stormwater. That's a good improvement, because right now it just discharges straight off the back. The site has some impervious surface. It's all going to get ripped out. Whatever, if you go onto the site and look at the concrete, the asphalt, that's got to go, because we're changing the grades to make this thing function with the new parking around it. So it's all got to come out. So what you're going to see when it's done would be all brand new asphalt, curbing, drainage, landscaping, lighting. It really will create a redevelopment that I'm going to be proud of, as it changes just the property values around the whole area, as this facility goes from what it looked like a year ago to what it's going to look like in a year from now. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any questions? I will say thank you so much for choosing, obviously, Holly Hill for this. And as you said, I want to build upon that. If you go back and look at this area that we're discussing tonight, a year and a half ago, with an empty lot and the business that was there at the time, and to what it's going to look like in a year from now, and being the center of youth sports of the area, when you look at next door to that gymnastics center that is absolutely world-class, absolutely great. If you guys haven't had a chance to go down and check it out, please do. I'm there very often. And to have this next door, it's really unique for that whole entire area. And as you said, with the expanded landscaping along there as well, it just really turns that whole entire block around. So I'm excited about this. I wish something like this was around when I was a kid, because I played baseball every day at Highland Park, and we didn't have anything like this when it was raining to go and practice ball. And I know that you guys are going to be using the latest technology to help kids, I'm sure, with their swing and with their throw and all of this. So that is super, super neat that we can this place can call Holly Hill home. And, you know, it's the private sector that's doing that. This isn't being done with any taxpayers' money. And so I just want to applaud you guys for taking a great project, making the business model work, and being able to give it back to the youth. So I'm super, super excited about this project. That's probably my favorite thing as an elected official, is when we get to affect our youth. So I just wanted to say that for the record, and open up the floor too if anyone would like to say something. Commissioner.
I would also like to say thank you for choosing Holly Hill. I know how into kids' sports you guys are, how dedicated you are, and that's very much appreciated. I'm along the same lines. Youth is one of the most important things. I do have a quick question, though. Is this going to be just sort of a membership base where the teams will go in and practice or play, or is it just open to the public? Like, my grandson can come in and practice.
This will 100% be open to the public.
Oh, okay.
For a fee, yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Anybody
right.
can walk in and do batting practice, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a great idea. And again, it's really going to mesh well with the improvement of that area already.
That's right.
I just realized how old I'm getting, because I remember when Commissioner Johnson built the building and saw it in its heyday, and then I saw it as recently as 6 months ago in its worst shape ever, to see it come back to what it was once before. So it's an amazing story. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's great. Anything further? All right, thank you very much,
All right,
Harry.
thank you.
All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead and open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this ordinance tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and I will entertain a motion for approval of ordinance 2021-0-3041.
I'll make a motion to approve the said ordinance.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Curry for approval, a second from Vice Mayor Penny. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing the future of that.
And can you tell Roy he can come back in now? Thank you. Wake him up.
Not allowed to nap any longer.
So in a moment, we'll
Gotta
go.
get back to work.
If it was for his grandson, I'd be worried. His grandson-
You can come back in now, Roy. Yep. All right, Mr. Forte, we'll go to you for communications.
Yeah, I got a couple items I want to bring up. First, I want to acknowledge a resident of the city that's no longer with us, and that's Bud Baldwin. And Bud used to live on LPGA and was very instrumental in getting that mural painted on the bridge on Daytona Avenue. He would come in and see me often. He was a character. Brought me some artwork, brought me some plants. Would come and see me every couple of weeks, and I learned that he passed away at the end of June. To my surprise, I was really not expecting that, but he really was a nice man, and always supported the arts and good things in the community, and just wanted to acknowledge that he's passed away and will be missed. Do you want to talk about the grass clippings?
I have notes on here that I'm going to go back to that, but
Okay.
if you could speak on the grass now, I'm going to bring up his other thing about COVID.
Okay, well, with the grass clippings, I do have an ordinance that I modeled after Volusia County has an ordinance, and we do have an issue with people allowing grass clippings to go into the road, which go into the catch basins, which go into the stormwater pipes, which end up into the intercoastal. And if we did, at your discretion, if you want to bring that forward, we could bring forward a resolution that prohibits that, and that would actually get us points in our NPDES ratings, because we have to, that's why we do street sweeping, is for NPDES ratings. And the way the ordinance would be designed, it would basically be an educational ordinance to begin with, and then after that, it would go more into enforcement. So, I want you to be aware of that if you choose to go down that road, we can certainly do it, and we'd make it an educational program at first, but at some point when these folks are intentionally blowing their grass clippings, and some of them are small and really don't amount to much, but some are quite substantial, and when they do get into those pipes and into the intercoastal, it's significant. And what that's doing is it's putting nitrogen into the river, which is what's affecting the sea life and the plant life that's in the water, which is why we don't have much there anymore. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to bring that forward or not, and it's there if you want to. I had scheduled, we have a work session on next Tuesday, the 3rd at 5 o'clock with Fountainhead. I'd like to follow that up with a shade meeting and continue talking about our union negotiations, maybe immediately following, say 6 o'clock that night, and talk a little bit more about where we're at with union negotiations.
Yes, yep.
Outside of that, I don't think I have anything else.
All right. Does anybody object to having a shade meeting after our next week? Okay, good, because I look forward to that. It's tough when you're in negotiations and you cannot say anything about current things that may or may not have been put out to the public prematurely, in my opinion. So I'll leave that at that, but time will come for that. So thank you, Mr. Forte. I have a couple things. Mr. Legary, I wrote down some of the ideas that you put down. And about the use of the COVID money, it's not that I want to use it for things that people can't see. I want to use it for things people see, but also people use and that way. But with some of the things that you brought up, the funding cannot be used for those items. They're very strict on what it can and cannot be used for. And so that's part of the problem. But some of the things that you brought up, we are working towards already in this coming budget. For instance, with the benches, we talked about redoing the benches. And
I don't think he was in the room when we talked about that.
Okay, yeah. No, and I'm just updating him. So we are going to take care of that. With murals, we are also going to create a $25,000 grant, right, in that fund for incentivizing people in the CRA to use or to implement murals in their business place. And then also in the general fund, we may have some monies available for businesses that are not in there. The fountain at in the pond at the foot of the bridge, we do have a fountain in there, but there's so much trash that comes off of that bridge that a lot of times bags and whatnot will go and suck up into the filter and it'll turn off, and probably multiple times a week. Is that right, Steve? You got to go down to unclog it?
Yeah, maybe a couple of things. And the pond was recently treated too for the algae.
Okay, and the pond was treated for algae. So staff, I know you have a hard time keeping that pond with all the trash that's coming out. It's ridiculous of what's happening there. And on that note, with people littering, we have our Citizen of the Year of this last year, Ariel Kay, and I know your daughter is involved with the Holly Hill Eco Group. They recently adopted LPGA. So you can only adopt county roads, and they're going to do 4 cleanups over the next 12 months. I shared it on my mayor's page. I know I'm going to be volunteering to go out and help clean up LPGA as well. But it's going to, it takes a village, and it takes a lot of people to come together to keep things clean. And unfortunately, I was always taught that littering was so bad. I don't know who the people out there think it's a good idea to throw out a bag, to throw out a cup, to throw out all these things that they do and just think that it's going to be okay. I will never understand that. But unfortunately, it impacts a lot of things, including that very pond. So I just wanted to bring that up, and love your idea with commission members getting together with the public, and I'm always all for that, but I don't think we necessarily need any COVID money for that. We will be getting a lot of COVID relief money from the federal government, but as I said, it's so strict on what categories can be used for. And if you'd like to get with me as well, I can provide those categories to you. Oh, you've read through it? Okay. So And I think that's still a far way away. I know that we're going to have a workshop discussing the needs of what we need to come up and fix, and so we'll go through all of that. Another thing I wanted to bring up, Joe and I met with the chamber president, or not president, executive director, Sammy, to speak about the state of the city. And so we're starting to talk about that. It's going to be in January. Again, we're going to condense it down to make it a lot shorter. There isn't going to be a brand reveal this time, so that'll make it shorter as well. And there was discussion about whether we want to do a video again or not. And I know some of you might have not liked that process, but I will say this year it will be done by somebody else. And the idea that Mr. Forte and Sammy and I had was to make it a lot shorter. That video's got to be a lot shorter, probably just one thing from each commissioner. And we could even do it in a voiceover way, so it's even easier. So you can get prepared on what it is and voice over, and we'll show pictures.
We're going to get in Holly Hill this year?
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about, is where we can do it. It's tough because of how many people will show up. There's not a venue really that can handle us as big as it is going to be. So we talked about using Sika Hall, and I think that's probably where it's going to be, because that's the biggest venue that we can have it. So there's not even a private venue, really. So so that's the update on the state of the city. But do you guys have any input on that, whether you do want to do the video or not? Does it matter?
I'm fine either way.
I personally like the voiceover. The county does that. They have B footage or whatever it's called.
Mhm.
And then you're speaking behind it. It comes off a little better.
Okay. Yeah, and it can even be like the county where it starts off, if yours is the expansion of Pictona, you're standing in front of the construction, you say, this is going on, and then I'm John Penny.
Right.
And then it goes into a voiceover showing pictures and whatnot, so. All right, and if any of you object, you don't have to do it either. Just let Joe know, and we'll come up with something nice to be able to do that. But I do like the idea of a video, because then it can be shared on social media and let the public know that may not be at the state of the city. Let them know the projects, some of the big projects that we're working on to improve the city. All right, the next thing is I wanted to let you all know that there's going to be a task force put together by the city of Daytona Beach, and I was invited to be a part of that, as I believe every mayor was in the county. We're going to come together to talk about specifically the truck and event, how it took over the entire area, what maybe can and cannot be done, so that way our police aren't overrun, the streets aren't treated so badly as they were in this last truck event. So just want to make you guys aware of it, and if you have any input that you would prefer me to put in, please let me know in a meeting like this. I know I'm putting you on the spot now, so I don't expect anything, but if you come up with an idea later on, let me know. I'd be happy to push that forward with the task force. And then the last thing was just setting up the shade meeting, but you already talked about that. So that's all I have for tonight. So I'm done. So now we'll go to Commissioner Johnson.
I'll get to talk, some things I can't talk about, though, right?
I don't know, what is it you want?
Yeah, there would be a second reading of the thing that you're probably talking about, so don't say anything about it.
I just appreciate everything that Holly Hill is doing right now. They're moving ahead with so many projects. It's a great thing, even after a serious pandemic, we're still doing good. And I'm so glad that Pictona's moving the way they are and doing good. And I hope so much, well, I don't want to talk about another project in the north area. Up on Flemish, I'm sure that project will go, but I don't want to say anything about that. But we had an emergency TPO meeting. Lois is gone. And we have Colleen's going to be in as an interim. And then I'm sure they'll have to, they got a committee looking for executive directors, so. And hopefully that'll work out okay. But so far it went really well, so I think the TPO will still be going ahead. And I don't really have a lot, except for I'm just so glad that Holly Hill is getting so much more of a positive image than what it used to have. it's getting away from just like junkyards and automotive and things like that, and trying to do some other projects as well, like Daytona and all that, and giving us a good reputation. And then I see where Joe said that people is checking him for available housing nearby, because of Daytona. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Vice Mayor Penny?
I saw somewhere, Mr. Mayor, a mayor's career fair August. What's going on with that?
Yeah, that's a career fair that Ms. Forte and, what is her name?
Yeah, it's actually Catherine
Oh, okay. I know who Catherine is.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say the name of the
So-
organization, but I know who
Yeah.
she is.
Yeah,
She gets the toys for the kids
she's
at Christmas.
coordinating it
Yes.
with the Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be over at Sika Hall on August the 11th.
I saw August 11th somewhere.
Is it 11th?
I think it's 11th. So they got quite
Yes,
a few
11th.
businesses that are going to be there. It's on Eventbrite. People can register to go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and that was, so she was putting that together, and she came to Mr. Forte and asked, could we call it the Mayor's Fair, since it's in Holly Hill? And so they asked me, I said, yeah, you can.
So she's doing all the work and just putting her name on it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm spreading the word, but yeah, she's doing all the work. I can't take any credit for that. It's very, very nice that she did that, but yeah, no, I haven't done much
Okay.
at all.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just didn't know
it's
anything
the
about
truth.
it.
It's the truth. But it's a really good event. There's a lot, as Mr. Forte said, there's a lot of employers signing up. Prior to it actually starting, there's going to be veteran hour to where veterans can come in and speak directly to many employers across the community, and should be a good thing. So there's a lot of people out there that are looking for careers at this time. So hopefully it'll help.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to talk about the grass clippings for a second. I brought it up to Mr. Forte months ago. It's my pet peeve. When I cut my grass, I go in the street and blow it back into my yard. Several of my neighbors wait until the grass is almost hay high, and they cut it, and they blow it into the street. I've even seen some of our previous city contractors doing the same thing, blowing it into the street. Not only does it get into the river, which causes nitrites and nitrates, which kill the seagrass, which make the manatees starve, but it's a huge safety factor if you're riding a motorcycle. Come across that stuff, it's like black ice. So I'm in favor of it. Not really in favor of punishing people, but we need to educate them as to what's happening with it. So I'm in favor of bringing it back at some point.
Question I had, do our contractors make sure that they're either bagging it or blowing it back into the grass?
Nobody
And-
bags grass anymore, and apparently, as Mr. Legary witnessed, our own contractors cutting City Hall actually not blowing it up onto the property, they were blowing it into the street.
Into the street. And
We'll talk to them about that again.
And also would we have control over the inmates to tell them to do it the right way?
We don't have them anymore.
Sure, when they come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
When they come back?
if they come back.
Okay. All right.
Probably not.
That's it. That's all I had. And the other things, Mr. Gary talked, you already touched on them. That there's a lot of things in our general budget that we're addressing. So
Yeah, all good ideas too. Yeah.
that's it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Curry.
Thank you. I really have nothing, but I am also in favor of that ordinance because it is a serious problem. It's a problem when it affects environmentally, and I think we need to do something about that. That's all I have.
Commissioner Daniel.
Save me for last?
Yeah. Best for last.
My best for last.
Best dressed.
No, I have not much to say, but I did want to comment on the breakfast we had last week, which was good at Pictona, and the Martins did a good job presenting themselves. They're neat when they get up there and talk about things, but I just appreciate everybody kind of joining me with that invocation, because it's kind of been weighing heavy on my heart, man, this last few days. It's just, my daughter's having a baby Monday at Adventist scheduled cesarean, And because of what's happening, I'm not gonna be able to be there, and that kind of bugs me. And I just feel like, it's like, people have reasons for doing and not doing what they're doing, but I just think we gotta get together, get it back in track, so. But anyway, that's it.
All right, thank you. Anything further, Mr. Forte?
I just
Anything-
have one other thing.
Yep.
Don't forget we need to.
Oh, Mr.
recognize
Cameron,
Cameron out here.
he's hiding behind a new mask.
38 years into leading that whole area
It's coming back too, those masks.
and communicating back and forth with Washington DC.
No, it's Mr. Jim
Jam.
Cameron. Always good to see you, Jim. All right, anything further? With that, we are now adjourned.